Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a while since I posted a video here on YouTube. I just want to kind of make a video, not of utmost importance, but just to let everybody know that I'm alive and well. I've been right immersed within my forthcoming book lately and have subsequently turned it into numerous publishers in hopes of being able to sign some form of a contract for my current publication and future books that I would like to write. Today I just wanted to discuss real quick the problems of Genesis, specifically chapters 1 and 2. I will be using Zondervan's NSAB Study Bible as my source of information that I'll be discussing with you here. We are all aware of the creation story in Genesis 1 and 2. What most Christians don't pay attention to or realize is that chapters 1 and 2 contradict each other. For example, in chapter 1, everything is created: the birds, the animals on the land, the creatures in the sea, day, night, all of that is created, and then male and female are created in God's image. The text also suggests that male and female were made at the same time. There's no text advocating that one was made before the other, that they were made at the same time. This is a dualistic point of view that I'll touch base on later in this video. However, in chapter 2, as I continue here, the sequence of events that are found in chapter 1 contradict each other in chapter 2. For example, the time at which the waters are created, the animals are created, and man is created. They do not flow with the sequence found in chapter 1. Furthermore, in chapter 2, man is made from the dust of the earth, and subsequently the breath of life is breathed in through his nostrils through Yahweh himself. This is important because it completely contradicts what's found in chapter 1. Later on in the text, a rib is subsequently taken from Adam's body, a rib is taken from his chest, and Eve is created to give Adam company because Yahweh had seen that he was lonely and needed a companion. So we have two different versions here. On one hand, man and female are created in God's image, and as I stated, the text suggests that they were made at the same time. In chapter 2, man is created not in God's image, but from the dust of the earth, and the breath of life is breathed into him from Yahweh. Keeping this in mind, bearing that information in mind that I just told you, we're then going to go to the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible, if you want to call it that. This translation is by Martin Abegg, Jr., amongst other authors. What's interesting with the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Essene community is, for the most part, everybody knows about cave worms and any fragmentary pieces that were left behind. For the most part, it was a daunting task to piece together and put together the scrolls as they originally were. However, what we do notice is there are huge gaps within several scrolls. For example, the book of Genesis. I'll keep right on topic. Chapter 1 is pretty much verbatim what we find in the modern translations of the Bible. However, in chapter 2, what's interesting is the book discusses, or the Essene Scrolls discuss, how man was created out of the dust of the earth. And it talks about the breath of life, so on and so forth. However, what is omitted from the text is the fact that a rib was taken from Adam, thus creating Eve. Eve is also was transliterated as Zoe or Zoe in the Greek Septuagint, but that is even in place in the Greek Septuagint. But there is no mention of Eve. Her name does not appear in the book of Genesis within the Essene Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. It talks about his creation, and then, as in the modern translation, it talks about he needs a companion, so they create a woman out of his rib. That reference is completely omitted. in chapter 2 of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, there are fragmentary pieces that are missing, but they are able to insert what most likely was probably written. The problem with the Essene, the Dead Sea Scrolls, in just this one instance that I'm going to share with you, is, and just so nobody accuses me of, there we go. You see the number 8, and then you see the number 17. This is just one instance that's replete. That was the book of Genesis, by the way. But it's very commonplace. They have chapter 8 of Genesis, but they're missing books 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And then it picks back up again on chapter 17. Now, Christian and biblical scholars will attest that one can assume that these chapters and text still existed in their copies. There's nothing to validate this claim. It's more of an assumption. But what's interesting is the Essenes seem to leave out the contradiction and not mention Eve whatsoever. They do discuss a woman in the Garden of Eden in chapter 3 and later on in chapter 2 of their version. But what's important is that the creation of Eve herself is left entirely out. This somewhat suggests, it's not solidified, but somewhat suggests that, you know, they may have been aware of this contradiction. Furthermore, there were so many variants of Genesis, Exodus, the Torah, the Tanakh. There are varying differences between, you know, the Old Hebrew Bible, the Samaritan Pentateuch, and, for example, you know, even the Tanakh as well. But going back to Eve being separate from Adam, you know, part 1 we were talking about male and female were created at the same time. That's what the text suggests. When you take a look and you read the Gnostic scriptures, I myself, I'm just using an example here for the Nag Hammadi scriptures. In their Gnostic belief, Adam is the human transference of the demiurge, and Eve is the byproduct of Sophia, which was also known as wisdom. The Gnostics were very dualistic, and, you know, replete throughout this Nag Hammadi text. The immeasurable one, the unknown, the ultimate power, the ultimate God, was actually bisexual, or should I say unisex. He had both male and female genitalia, and could subsequently have sex with itself to produce offspring, such as Sophia. Sophia is said to be the immeasurable one's first thought. And then Sophia subsequently created the demiurge because she became lonely, and you know, that's just a long story. But the variants that we have are so contradictory, and there were so many versions of sex, and more importantly is, for example, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the book of Exodus, the second book of the Torah, the one that is almost verbatim with the modern translations today, dates to the 2nd century CE, which suggests that it took that long of a time period to actually get it right. The earlier manuscripts that dated to BC of Exodus, this is just one example, actually were so completely, radically different than what we have today. But as time goes on, it appears that the scribes and the rabbis and the high priests, so on and so forth, were aware of the contradictions. And this wasn't just, you know, the Bible just wasn't written as history, but it had to produce a myth, and that myth had to take time to create, and try to make, you know, try to make it not contradictory. But over time they did just the exact opposite, and one of the reasons why I'm not a Christian, because it's the good